He says, you are neither cold nor hot. I would that you were either cold or hot. So because you are lukewarm and neither hot nor cold, I will spit you out of my mouth. Now, this is sort of another verse in this text that's sort of misquoted often, which is the idea that some people say, well, what this means is Jesus is saying, I wish you were hot, I wish you were passionate, I wish you were boiling over, or I wish you would just walk away from me. I just wish you would not be part of the family of God. You wouldn't call yourself a Christian. But that's actually not what he's saying. The context here is, Laodicea, as a city, was really rich. They had a lot going for them. They were a banking center. They were a center for certain kinds of medication for the eyes. They were a center for textiles. They would raise these sheep that would produce this black, glossy wool that would be in high demand at the time. And so they were known for a lot of things. But one of the things they struggled with was water supply. There was a city called Hierapolis, which was about 6 miles from Laodicea, and they had these hot springs that would come up with mineral-rich water. And people would come to these hot springs to find soothing and healing for different kinds of ailments. And then there was a city called Colossae, which was about 10 miles away. And Colossae had these naturally occurring cold water springs from the mountains. The water would flow down and there would be this cold, refreshing water. The problem with Laodicea was when they would get the water from one of these places, usually the places with the hot springs, by the time the water would get to their city through these terracotta pipes, the water would be lukewarm, but still mineral rich. So literally, they would be used as an emetic, as something that would cause you to throw up for certain ailments. If you're trying to cleanse your system and stuff, they would use a little bit of that water because it would induce vomiting. What Jesus is saying to them is this. He's saying, I wish that you were fresh, life-giving, cold water. Or I wish that you were healing, soothing, a hot mineral bath. But he says, you are neither. You actually have no purpose. You're not finding yourself or making yourself useful for the culture you live in, useful for the things that I've called you to do. This idea that they were apathetic, the idea that they couldn't care less. They were satisfied with carelessness, indifference, existing in a non-productive state, barren, not fruitful. This thought that they didn't have the presence of God energizing them. You know, if you take lukewarm water and you want to chill it, you need to apply a source of energy, right? You need to put it in the fridge. It's got to be energy to cool the temperature of the water. If you take lukewarm water and you want it to be hot, you want to boil it, you need a source of energy. But if you take hot water or cold water and leave it outside for a while, guess what? It's going to become lukewarm. It's going to just become room temperature. Here's the point. They were depending on their own strength. They had no outside energy. They didn't have the presence, the power of Jesus. They weren't relying on God for sustenance, for purpose, for vision, for mission, for what they were called to do. They were just existing. And Jesus is saying, because you just exist, you are of no use to me. Here's the question that we ought to ask ourselves. If you are a Christ follower, are you finding purpose in your calling in Jesus? I'm not asking you if you're a Christian. I'm asking you, are you bringing refreshment to people around you? Are people finding you like a cold, refreshing glass of water? Or are people finding you like a healing, hot bath where they say, man, when I hang out with you, I feel soothed because of all the pain that's happening in my life. Or when I'm hanging out with you, when I'm parched and dry, it's like it's refreshing just hanging out with you, talking to you, experiencing Christ's love through your life. How do we find ourselves in our fellowship of Jesus?